everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Rest is Lean Leadership Edition. Sadly, we haven't got John or Russell with us today, but you've got little old me, Alan Lothian, as ever. And I'm pleased to say that I've got a very, very dear friend of mine whose career spans over 25 years in profit and loss turnaround, business turnaround, in engineering, quality, and lean operations, spanning companies such as GE, Collins Aerospace, Visteon, and Johnson Controls. Now currently Senior Vice President and Quality Officer for Forvia, it's my dear friend, Delphine Fillot. How are you?
Hello, I'm super pleased to be with you today, Alan.
Thank you so much for taking the time out today. I really, really appreciate it. It's not many. You're part of a very, very select few. So thank you so much for taking the time out. I appreciate it.
Well,
listen, in terms of our readers, our listeners, our watchers, our viewers, one of the key things that people always ask us is what gets us into lean, what makes us feel so passionate about it. I was just thinking, can you tell us what was your first exposure to lean, and can you tell us a little bit and expand a little bit more on what that was about? How you got into it?
Sure. It started like long time ago now, I'm afraid. Early really in my career, so basically, back to 25 years ago, when I joined Johnson Controls, and I was also the process engineer in a UAP of 250 people, and my main KPI was the OEE, the non-quality cost, and clearly, the effectiveness and the reduction of the variability of those processes. And I was just getting out from school, and everything about management and all those 12 lines of production was like hitting me. And then, very quickly, by analyzing processes, etc., I said, hey, I need some help. And basically, I had the chance very early enough to be trained and coached by the Kaizen Institute, and with I had the chance to have some speech also with from Imai Masaki, I think, if my memory serves well, which coached me, not him directly, but his disciples, as we said, and that's how I hand up my hands in the Kaizen. And as I like very much pragmatism and concrete thing, I think that's really was like said, wow, I love it. And that's my first journey in lean, really learning the techniques and really applying them on the ground.
Yeah, that's great. And in terms of that, obviously you start you got the buzz, the urge for it, and the passion for it quite early in your career. Do you want to just take us through your career to date in terms of how you've got to the heady heights as senior VP, and take us through some of the great organizations that you've worked for?
Really, I was in Visteon, and I have done my mechanical engineering degree part-time, and that was really something that I like very much, because it was also very much hands-on. It was new product introduction, so I learned also about the Visteon production system at that time. So, but I didn't figure this out too much, because I was most on the engineering simultaneous engineering team, so more a bit in front, even if I had some product in the production. That was really my concrete gut feeling was coming from Johnson Controls time. Then in Johnson, I grew up inside this ladder just after this position of UAP process engineer, and I become the head of lean for the plant. So I become the lean in charge of the Johnson Control manufacturing system. I was 23 years old or something.
Wow.
And then I discovered not only the lean techniques, because I received a lot of training, theoretical and pragmatic ones across Europe with other lean guys like me, and the industrial and the lean guru of Johnson at that time, and that really was a super journey where you understand the concrete thing on the ground, and also how this is having an impact also P&L wise. So I started to work with finance also at that time. That was really important, because it's really helped me to understand also the finance bits. So from my career path,
which is so important.
Yeah, exactly. To understand the link between the financials and the operational side. Basically, I have the chance to go after to UK, and that's how also we met, my dear friend, later on. But because I lived in UK for a couple of years, but going through the aerospace was also a change of mindset. I shouldn't say that, but I'm gonna say it. It was super enterprise, and the colleagues and bosses was super challenging, and it was the first time for me to be in another foreign country. I learned a lot through this, but more on the soft skills than the hard skills. And specifically on the fact that I learned how to integrate lean in a business where we were doing 55% of margin, while the automotive world was more about 4 and 5, so like a big scale. And therefore, I stayed not so long because I'm also a bit like energetic, and I was a bit bored, and I had the chance to join an LBO, and that's how we met together.
Yeah.
And the line buyout business, which were called Convertim, then acquired by GE. And on this, the lean journey was in different plants in UK, as you know, and very quickly we have had to set up the lean management system full across the UK, but also across Brazil. And as we were doing together some great stuff, we managed, and I managed to have more, and they give me more on top of Chinese plants and the German ones. So I was traveling quite well, and that's how I grew up, at least in the lean journey ladder, if I may say that.
We have a phrase called "you were a victim of your own success."
Yeah. Well, you don't do success alone. Huh? You're always doing teams. And then therefore through GE that I had the chance to do other stuff than only a lean, because I was coaching engineering. And that was also super interesting, because I've done for a couple of time also the lean transactional office mindset and actions and activities. And then I become the head of engineering for France, and and therefore for other bigger plants, bigger R&D centers, to finally be the head of power electronics, operation head in engineering. And later on in GE, between the lines, I had a P&L, as we mentioned before. So in France, so back to France, and having 400 million P&L in France, with a lot of things also in terms of transformation and bringing lean also in engineering, but also in manufacturing, and also in the transactional process flows. And after this nice GE journey on this branch of GE, I went to another branch of GE, and they offer me to become what they call an executive band, but as VP for others. But I had the choice to be engineering VP or be quality VP. I said engineering, I was doing this since already a couple of years, and I said, okay, that's great, but maybe quality will be great for me also, and to have, again, an holistic view on the business. I think that's something which was interesting for me. And therefore, I was doing this for a couple of years before joining Forvia. And I joined Forvia 5 years ago, and therefore I'll be the head of quality for their clean mobility business group, with a second hat, which was super interesting for me, and still today, by the way, which is a total customer satisfaction, which is ring the bell between the experience side of the customer, but also, as you know, also the total customer satisfaction is surely also a very important goal for any lean activities. And therefore, since more than 2 years, I'm in charge of the quality and the total customer satisfaction for the group of Forvia.
One thing that has always stuck in my mind since we met is your passion and your enthusiasm for the topic, not only to improve businesses, but also improve people. My own mentor, Moroka-san from Toyota, he always said to me, it's always better to take 100 people 1 step forward than it is to take one person 100 steps forward. And so true. You don't realize when in the early days what is really true, what is really meant by that, but you soon learn it when you're in the thick of it, and you've got the responsibility and the accountability to make change happen. As right, you mentioned about your current role at Forvia, which we'll expand on in a few moments if we may. But I was going to say, in terms of the customer satisfaction, I'll be honest, I've not seen many people, apart from yourself, with that title. Mm-hmm. And actually, when you think about it, it's so incredibly important for customer satisfaction, because that's for lean leaders like ourselves. That's fundamentally where the value comes from. So how have you found that with that title? Has it been different? Is it
so different? I should have maybe saying it, but in GE was also we were calling it customer experience. So it was like really the customer pure experience of it. For sure, it's coming from my predecessor. I was not the one, creating this new thing, but that was from the president also mindset view. And it's clear to me that you're right. The total customer satisfaction is the customer experience, or clearly the service and how we interact with them day to day, because all along the value chain. And at the same time, it's clearly how do we perform with them. Okay, so it's really, and the performance is not only about quality, and that's what is difference in my current role, is that this holistic view of quality from acquisition to warranty, it's also linked to the performance of what we bring to our customers. And as you know, in automotive, we are delivering millions of parts every day.
Absolutely.
Right? And with the right level of quality, liability, and surely, this is something that for me it's like an obvious thing now, and inside the company, therefore, my team and myself, we are navigating on improving processes or influencing to improve processes, even not in our direct field, and that's super interesting. And I am partnering with our sales community regularly, and my team does too, as we do that with engineering and operation and purchasing, and so it's super. In fact, for me, like, it's my reality, so it's normal, but it's super powerful somehow. We are spread around the world, really, like from South America, North America, Mexico, and all Europe, South Africa, and North Africa, and in Asia also, through Thailand, Japan, China, and and I'm missing lots of them. So India.
Well, you must have some great experiences then, because I think you've got global responsibility for those?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And and I think what is important also is we are B2B, mainly B2B company, and we have only 90 customers. And our customers are the brand, the car brands, so what we call internally the OEMs, but are really the car brands and or other tier one that we are also supplying parts.
Great stuff. I was going to say, so in terms of Forvia itself, does it have its own, what I would call, production system or anything like that at all?
Exactly.
Could you share that with the viewers?
Yeah. So we have what we call the Forvia Excellence System. So the Forvia Excellence System was, as most of the companies, they are the heart of our operations. Okay, it's also something that we really want to bring this lean mindset in engineering. So this is something that I was also part of this deployment now nearly 2 years ago, and that's something also which helping us and helping our engineering teams and our program teams also to enhance their performance.
That's a really, really good point, because again, we talk about this quite a lot, Russell, John, and I, on the normal pods, and a lot of people still today think that when we apply lean, it's just for the shop floor and for manufacturing, and it's not. It encompasses everything, including all office environments, project management, for example. You mentioned engineering. You and I both know, where there's a process, it can be improved. Is there a particular project or Kaizen event that stands out or sticks out for you, that's particularly more memorable?
I remember some that even in GE that we've been doing. Larry Culp, which is was the head of GE, to relaunch completely the lean management and leadership style on top of bringing the techniques inside the company. And I remember also some event with one of our Japanese sensei, and which I'm not going to give the name because I don't recall the name, but basically, and we were in middle of Poland with different other leaders. They were there to really embark the whole leadership, in this journey, and we were needed to do some clearly improvement in the shop floor. And he was like, like this, huh? You've been also in these phases with different senses, also yourself. But he was staying in his position until we will find ourselves the solution. And he was waiting. And he was really a Japanese guy with a translator nearby. And all my colleagues were like freaking out because he was not saying anything and so on. And we needed to find this ourselves. And it was to do a mechanical solution. I'm not going to give everything, but like a mechanical solution change and removing completely zero automation. Okay, that was the aim. Zero automation, like a carry, thing. And we made it. But I think we finished like nearly midnight, something like this. And we should have been finished at 5 or something. And it was still, in the gamba and not moving, So, and that's really, show me also that the determination and really he didn't want to, he knew that we could find a solution. He was trusting in us to make it happen, and therefore we must do it.
Is that why it sticks out, because it was so painful, or for you?
Yeah, it was painful, and why I'm still thinking about that is because every time I'm traveling around the world and I'm visiting the plants or the R&D centers or the labs or whatever, I'm always trying to also put myself in the shoes of what my team and we are doing, what we are trying to improve, what we are trying to impact them with, and how they will be able really to ensure that they understand what we are trying to do, and they will be able to use what we want to do. And so trying really to have this empathy somehow, and if I'm maybe able to explain this correctly in English, but really to make sure that we know and the guys know what we're gonna do together, and how this will be helpful for them. But not always telling them the whole thing.
Correct.
For them to be fully empowered. I think that's really one of the message for me.
You're absolutely right there. You're absolutely right.
Because we have a tendency, and more you're going up in the ladder, I think it's even worse and worse. So I'm always trying to be back to the game bar on the ground and listen also to the gap that we really have between where I am here in Nanterre and when I'm in the middle of Mexico or Thailand. So the way he empowered us at that time was like amazing. And we need to make sure that's working properly. And I think this is something that we have a new president also in Forvia today, and this is really what he's trying to do, really change. So for sure, things are changing, and you have some new presidents. So you have one area, one era. How do we say that? One way of doing, which was the right thing at that time, and now we have a new one for the new future of us. Things are changing. So. But he's bringing some leadership traits which are super critical also to drive this culture drift change, or at least improve.
The way I've always looked at it is about building resilience. You and I have been fortunate, and you still are, in very senior positions. There's always levels of uncertainty. There's no chance you're going to know exactly what's to predict what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes, let alone anything longer. So having that resilience to be able to say, right, okay, I don't know the answer. Let's go back to the structure that I was taught. And eventually you will find the answer that you need. So absolutely, that's the cultural difference. And actually, I just want to expand on that a little bit more for me. So obviously, you travel the world. You go to many sites, Forvia sites. Do you find the cultural differences between countries a challenge in terms of maybe getting the Forvia message across?
I mean, it's clear that one of the things which is fundamental is understand these cultural differences, so it's clear. So and how we do that is really, I mean, first of all, our Forvia excellence system has been put in place more than I should have remembered that, but like more than 20 years ago. So it has been evolving also on the way and adapted itself. And when I'm traveling, I'm also doing coaching sessions on the ground, embarking my teams to ensure that I understand myself the gaps of the teams. And then we do a specific, action plan also somehow afterwards to fulfill the gaps. And sometimes the gaps is more about sometimes cascading information which has not been properly, or re-inject some training, so it's nothing to do about the willingness of improving, which is super good also, but it's more about giving them the awareness and the purpose of why we are doing things, at least from my perspective.
You're absolutely right. I think in terms of coming back to you said about from the cultural aspect, being what I would call culturally aware or culturally intelligent, really goes a long way, particularly in leadership roles such as yourselves. Absolutely. That's one trait. I'm just curious on your take on the makeup of a leader, a lean leader in particular. So we've talked about cultural awareness or cultural intelligence. Are there any other particular traits that you think work well for lean leadership?
Well, first is active listening.
Excuse me?
active listening. Yeah. So
sorry about that. I couldn't resist.
It's an easy one. Okay, you get it. Sorry. But it's so true. I mean, again, it's obvious, but it's so true, right?
It is, absolutely.
Yeah. The second aspect is be humble. Yeah. Maybe they get super obvious, but it's not because you're a lean guru that you will know everything on everything. Okay.
Absolutely. We don't.
No, we don't.
I know we know less than what the operators or the people at the Gemba don't. So.
Yeah, and if you remember also maybe some discussion, when people were telling me, "Oh, I am an expert." No, no one is an expert. Yeah. So you will be having a big suitcase of skills, but maybe not an expert. It's super. How do you define an expert? Yeah. So at least those two ones, you have many, but what I can say also, and you mentioned it earlier on, is the attention of the details. Because when you go through problem solving, so you have the methodology, but if you, and you know this by heart, but this is my daily life also, if my teams are not able to explain to me the problem description, I know that we will not find the right root cause. It's obvious, but so I think it's also to have also the soft skills on liking the details and understanding how those details gonna be coming together, Here I can make a lot of decisions, but are they the right ones? So you need to enable yourself to have the right, again, Gemba reality of the business, what's going on in reality. You need to be able to know exactly the information across the globe and making sure without no filter. So you need to make sure that your team don't give you filter also. I think this is also important for lean person, that's to have your right network inside the boundaries where you are in order to make sure that you have the full picture. And having this full picture on top of going and be able to go in the details, so therefore you are able also to do the step back. This is for me fundamental.
I think another one that I think was always particularly prevalent is transparency. So being able to articulate, I think you mentioned before, I think, again, forgive me in terms of if I've misunderstood something you mentioned earlier, but you've got to make sure people are on the same page on what we're trying to achieve, and to be open and transparent as best as you possibly can. I think people are realistic enough that we can't disclose absolutely everything, but to be open and transparent and have a clear message is really, really important in terms of what we are trying to achieve, not what we're not trying to achieve, and make sure we're aligned. So that's a really good point.
And if I may rebound on this quickly, and that's something because we are 150,000 employees, and just the quality is a bit is less than 3% of that. So it's still a lot of people that you've got to embark. And we just finalized the objective alignment for 2026. The guidance was given and shared already among the employees a couple of months ago. To say, okay, that's where we want to go in 2026, and surely we're going to the strat plan and the strategic plan and so on to make it happen. But then we just finalize a global, alignment. And going back to transparency is, for me, it's fundamental as a leader that where you're rowing all together. So the business groups that I'm also in charge from quality perspective, and the central small corporate team that I've got also, all the individual objectives, including mine, are shared. So we have an Excel file, still an Excel, but whatever. It's an Excel file that we shared, and therefore everyone knows who is gonna, as a personal objective, and the weight and so on. So just full transparency.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm doing since already a lot of years, I must say. And it's so powerful because you have no games of, but I'm sure he's doing this because of this and this. No, because they know it's super transparent. That does not mean that if we have other things to do on top, they will not do it. For sure not. But at least they know the big tickets and they know how collectively we can put our, our stone at the house,
Yeah, great stuff. Listen, if I may, I'd like to put you on the spot for a few moments, ask you a couple of quick fire questions. Would that be okay?
Let's try.
What book would you say has been the biggest influence on your career? It doesn't necessarily have to be lean, but if it is, that's fine.
Yeah, the Toyota Way is for sure.
Okay. So how long ago was it when you first read that one?
Wow, I don't know. 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, for sure. I worked past life also on the shining tools, which is
okay.
And that's also a book that I loved. It's quite technical, right? But how to apply the shining tools in the shop floor, because it's for me really making the links between the mindset of the Toyota Way and really resolving pragmatically, problems. And from quality standpoint, it's good that my teams are up to speed on that. So that's what I can say from the technical.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. Yeah. So is that a bit? Well, is that a bit like what you mean, like rapid problem solving, practical problem solving? Is that what you mean in terms of that, or not, or something different?
I'm not gonna open my cupboard behind because it's there. So I can give you back the reference, but I've got an old edition, so I don't know. I'm sure they have been doing a new edition on that. Yeah, no problem. I can share. No problem. I've got another one, if I may.
Go for it.
Which is more leadership one, and it's the 8 habits of Richard Covey.
Yes.
Yeah, super simple also, but I think it's and I don't have any
You're not on commission.
Yeah, I don't have any commission. But I think as a leader is I had the chance, as I was mentioning, to have management responsibilities early enough in my career, and you learn things at school, but it's clearly different than reality.
Absolutely.
And this book was really pragmatic in the way they were explaining. So there was a 7th habit, and then after I think to make more money, he created the 8 ones.
Another question I've got for you is, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think and if I take even my hat of a woman also, I didn't have a lot of role models myself when I was younger. And you mentioned about the fact that I'm self-motivated because I like what I'm doing, and I think the industry in general really animate myself. But really taking risks to learn more things, basically, because when you take risks, you put yourself in some uncomfortable shoes, and therefore you will learn by nature, right? And I think that's what I can say, right?
No, that's great. No, that's absolutely fine.
I'm still young.
No, yes, you are. I was going to say you're much younger than me. You mentioned then that you felt growing up as a young woman, you didn't have many role models. But that was going to be one of my final quick fire questions. Have you got, if there's one person you did say stands out that's helped you in your career, and again, it doesn't have to be from a lean perspective, is there somebody that would spring to mind?
I've got many. I've got many because to be where I am today is because I'm surrounded of male. There's been different men across my career path. I can mention a few ones. I've got Laurent Laporte, for example, from which is currently in charge of Brand Cube, which is a super French origin, but a big tech company now, which works super well. He was my boss at some point, which was the one promoting me in the lean background, in the lean shoes. Florent Battistella, as we mentioned.
Yeah, Florent, good old Florent.
Which was our COO at that time. In GE, I mean, I had different ones, but Patrick Maffeis and Einar Markov, which was some bosses of me, was really count for me. I've got so many. I mean, it's not good because I'm sure I forget some. So, but anyway, so yeah.
I'm sure they'll understand that. Delphine, listen, it's been absolutely fascinating. I know you've got to move on quickly, but listen, thanks so much indeed for taking the time out, and it's great to see you again. You're looking ever so well. All right, so
you take care of yourself also, right?
Yeah, you too, Delphine. Take care. Delphine Fillot from Forvia, and listen, and thanks very much to Forvia for allowing me to spare the time today. I really appreciate it. Well, that's it for another episode of the Rest is Lean Leadership podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Delphine was a fantastic guest, really informative, really knowledgeable, and I thoroughly enjoyed spending time with her after all these years. For you guys out there, thanks very much for taking the time out to listen or watch us on whichever platform that you're experiencing it on. If you have got any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them on the posts or via the email at therestislean@gmail.com. And we'll see you again very soon. But for now, take care. Bye.